whistleblower who has identified himself as a longtime Democratic staffer. This is not a Republican operative, a Democratic staffer who was working in Democratic offices at the time of the alleged leaking in 16-17. This staffer was interviewed by FBI agents on several occasions and told those agents that then Congressman Adam Schiff was the one who approved the leaks to the media.
The myth of a fearless truth-teller quickly crumbles when Megyn Kelly takes aim, exposing Adam Schiff as the master of empty grandstanding and relentless political theater. Rather than delivering the bombshells he promised, his career unfolded as a parade of dramatic speeches, hollow accusations, and overhyped promises that rarely materialized. Kelly systematically dismantles his carefully crafted image piece by piece, revealing a legacy built not on real statesmanship or meaningful accomplishments, but on an obsession with cameras, sound bites, and the fleeting, self-congratulatory applause of Washington's insular echo chamber.
Now, this staff member began talking to the FBI in 2017 because he said he considered the leaks to be, quote, unethical, illegal, and treasonous. This is a Democrat staffer who is saying to the FBI he had a holy shit moment when he heard Adam Schiff give the order. These documents that outline the FBI's interview, like the FBI doesn't tape its interviews. They go back and they report what they heard in.
Adam Schiff has constructed an entire career as the political world's self-appointed detective. Yet instead of uncovering real wrongdoing, he specializes in manufacturing conspiracies, waving around empty promises, and pretending that every vague hunch is a smoking gun. Megyn Kelly doesn't just expose him. She meticulously dismantles the Schiff persona layer by layer, showing how the man who once branded himself a fearless truth-teller has instead become one of Washington's most shameless performers. Schiff is the living embodiment of political theater, dramatic, loud, and utterly hollow once the lights go out and the cameras stop rolling.
Going to shock the world right now and defend Adam Schiff in response to the heat he's getting for the following clip.
It is an existential threat, Senator, and also
asleep.
I have not seen it yet, but from what I've heard about former FBI Director Ray,
Someone in the audience behind
comments on 60
Pam
Minutes regarding China
is videotaping Adam Schiff asleep.
In our own country, infiltrating our water systems, our national gas lines.
I defend Adam Schiff because these confirmations.
Megyn Kelly highlights how Adam Schiff perfected the art of the overly serious, intense face during televised interviews, as if widening his eyes, lowering his voice, and nodding gravely could somehow substitute for actual evidence. He repeatedly promised Americans proof of collusion so explosive it would reshape history. He teased blockbuster revelations, acted as if he were holding the political equivalent of nuclear codes, and yet time and again delivered nothing of substance. Schiff's investigations ended up less like Sherlock Holmes and more like Scooby-Doo mysteries, but without the satisfying unmasking. There was no dramatic reveal, only endless speculation that slowly fizzled into thin air, leaving viewers frustrated and underwhelmed.
Don't believe he's going to weaponize the DOJ to use it against his opponents. I believe that's what was done to him. Though, as we discussed with Alan Dershowitz in that now famous clip that went around where I said we need Steve Bannon, I'm not totally opposed to it. I'm going to be honest. Who would cry a tear if Adam Schiff actually got some sort of hassle thrown his way by the DOJ?
Adam Schiff doesn't deal in truth. He deals in innuendo and manufactured controversy. His specialty isn't uncovering real corruption or delivering accountability. Instead, he stretches narratives just long enough to keep himself in the headlines and remain politically relevant. Megyn Kelly underscores the obvious. If Schiff truly possessed evidence even half as explosive as he claimed, it would have surfaced years ago. Yet he prefers dragging out hearings, feeding endless sound bites to news networks, and casting himself as the heroic figure in a story that never existed. He isn't a watchdog of democracy. He's a hype man for conspiracy theater, expertly keeping the spotlight fixed firmly on himself.
Schiff stated the group would leak classified information which was derogatory to the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Schiff stated the information would be used to indict President Trump. The whistleblower stated this would be illegal And upon hearing his concerns, unnamed members of the meeting reassured that they would not be caught leaking classified information.
Part of what makes Adam Schiff such an easy target is how brazenly he doubles down even after being repeatedly proven wrong. Most politicians, when exposed, at least attempt some form of damage control. Schiff, however, acts as if the audience is too naive to notice his missteps. Megyn Kelly mercilessly roasts this arrogance, highlighting how Schiff can stand before cameras, repeat unsubstantiated claims that never materialize, and then pivot to acting like the real issue is people daring to question him. It's the kind of shameless gaslighting you'd expect from a bad salesman insisting a lemon is a luxury vehicle. Schiff doesn't just bend the truth, he treats it like a prop to be wielded at will.
President Biden pardoned Adam Schiff at the end of his term, but unlike the one he gave to Hunter, it was a limited pardon.
It was.
And it only spoke to J6 and his work on the January 6th Select Committee. So it would not immunize him from any of the claims you and I are discussing right now, right?
Megyn Kelly also zeroes in on the sheer hypocrisy Adam Schiff carries around like a badge of honor. This is a man who claims to fight corruption, yet repeatedly manipulates the system whenever it benefits him personally. Whether leaking selective information to the press, pushing half-baked intelligence narratives, or grandstanding endlessly during hearings, Schiff's career has been far less about serving the American people and far more about serving Adam Schiff. He treats the House floor like it's his personal audition for an HBO political drama, always angling to land the dramatic line that will dominate the evening news. Megyn's takedown hits hardest when highlighting that Schiff's obsession with attention isn't merely embarrassing, it's destructive. While he casts himself as the savior of democracy, Congress gets bogged down in endless partisan circus acts that waste years of crucial legislative time. Kelly calls him the perfect example of a politician who prioritizes headlines over tangible results. Look past his investigations, and the record is barren. Decades in office, yet ask his constituents what he's delivered, and you'll hear only crickets. His biggest achievement is perfecting outrage theater, keeping himself endlessly in the spotlight while delivering nothing of substance.
So walk us through what the 302 reports that the FBI wrote up after their interviews with this whistleblower say.
Yeah, so let's give you a sense of who this person is. We don't know their name because the name is redacted, but we know their career. They're a career intelligence officer. So they started in the executive branch as an intelligence officer, and then they get detailed to the Democratic side of the House Intelligence Committee. Eventually, this person inherits as his boss, Adam Schiff, when Adam Schiff takes over as the Democrat minority ranking member on House Intelligence in 2016. And they're working for Adam Schiff. And somewhere in the beginning of the Russia collusion, false narrative building in America, he attends a meeting where Adam Schiff says, we're going to leak.
The highlight of Schiff's career, if you can even call it that, was the impeachment drama. He milked those hearings for every ounce of camera time, speaking with a tone so sanctimonious it made him sound like a failed actor desperately trying to deliver Shakespeare in a high school gym. Megyn Kelly mercilessly roasts the performance for what it truly was: scripted outrage designed not to uncover the truth, but to make Schiff the face of resistance. And like nearly every other show he's headlined, the finale was anticlimactic. Schiff didn't change history. He didn't uncover the explosive conspiracy he had promised. He simply wasted months of America's time while maintaining the illusion of importance. Kelly emphasizes that Schiff's problem isn't that he outright lies. It's that he hides behind language like a magician hides behind smoke and mirrors. He never clearly says, I have proof right here. Instead, it's, the evidence suggests, we've seen signs, there are reasons to believe. These phrases sound authoritative until you realize they're empty shells, giving him cover when nothing actually pans out. It's political sleight of hand. Say enough to stir outrage, but never enough to be held accountable. Schiff perfected that trick, but Megyn Kelly exposes it for what it is: a lazy, self-serving con executed on the public stage.
At least according to the legal experts I've talked to, he's only immunized for what he did related from January 6 forward to 2021. So these things occurred in 17 and 18. You've got the mortgage issue, which is also based on our reporting, a story we broke last October on the counting two houses as his primary residence to get better mortgage deals. Those would fall outside of the pardon according to the legal experts who've looked at it. And I suspect if those get to the case of criminality at some point, that there may be some legal challenges trying to test that pardon's.
And then there's Schiff's obsession with Donald Trump, which Megyn Kelly skewers like a chef expertly carving a prime steak. Schiff built his entire political brand on being the man who would finally take Trump down. He appeared on television night after night, promising that Trump's imminent fall was just around the corner, that accountability was inevitable, and that justice would be served. Years later, Trump is still here, still commanding attention, while Schiff is still peddling the same tired, predictable lines. It's not just irony, it's humiliation in high definition. Schiff's career is now permanently tied to a man he swore he would destroy. History will remember him as the guy who barked loudly for years but never actually landed a single bite. Megyn Kelly also highlights Schiff's shameless exploitation of this obsession for fundraising. Every dire warning, every dramatic press conference, every ominous hint about national security conveniently coincided with emails begging for donations. Schiff didn't just exploit fear, he monetized it. He turned political paranoia into a subscription service, convincing loyal followers to bankroll his never-ending soap opera. And what did they get in return? Nothing but empty promises, a smug face on TV, and the illusion of accountability that never materialized.
I mean, didn't we just have a whole criminal investigation of Donald Trump for having documents at Mar-a-Lago that might have classified information in them, and we just can't have that. We can't have classified information running around out there in the hands of people who aren't authorized. Meanwhile, this is the former president of the United States who can declassify everything. We were told that for 2 years straight, the past 2 years by Democrats. And now what you're saying is that one of the most vocal about that, Adam Schiff, had been at the helm of releasing classified information.
His defenders argue that Schiff is just doing his job, that he's bravely standing up for democracy. But Megyn Kelly calls that excuse exactly what it is: nonsense wrapped in self-importance. Standing up for democracy doesn't mean dragging the country through endless show trials that lead absolutely nowhere. It doesn't mean turning congressional hearings into self-promotional stunts designed to elevate yourself instead of seeking truth. It doesn't mean crying wolf so many times that even when something genuinely serious happens, the public just rolls their eyes in exhaustion. Megyn Kelly's roast also slices into Schiff's constant projection. He warns about misinformation while simultaneously pushing narratives that never materialize. He brands himself as a defender of truth, yet leaves a trail of half-truths, exaggerations, and outright fabrications wherever he goes. Schiff doesn't just bend the rules. He warps them until they are almost unrecognizable, reshaping reality to suit his performance. And he does it all with that same smug, self-righteous expression, as if daring anyone, anywhere, to call him out on it.
While this is only the unverified allegation of a single former staffer, the alleged conduct would involve criminal and unethical conduct of the highest order, if proven. Your reaction to this news?
Well, it's in keeping with my opinion of Adam Schiff. I've been calling him McCarthyite ever since he started in on Trump. And as John pointed out, McCarthy, at least there had some communists in the government that he was talking about, although he was irresponsible. Adam Schiff repeatedly came out and said, I have seen documents that indict, that link Trump to Russia, but I can't reveal them to you now, but just you wait, I'm going to reveal them. And of course, we know they weren't there. We know there was nothing there. And now we have this information from the whistleblower, my favorite part of which is when the whistleblower says he objected to the illegality.
At the core of Kelly's takedown is the undeniable truth. Adam Schiff is a fraud. Not in the criminal sense, but in the professional, moral, and public sense. He's a man who meticulously packaged himself as a warrior for truth, a stalwart defender of democracy, yet delivered nothing but carefully staged theater. Serious matters became punchlines, overpromises became standard operating procedure, and the American public was left more divided, more cynical, and more exhausted than ever. Schiff didn't strengthen democracy. He cheapened it, turning solemn proceedings into a reality television spectacle where his performance mattered more than the facts themselves. And the final, cruelest blow? Schiff still doesn't get it. Even after years of failed predictions, unfulfilled promises, and theatrical flops, he continues to strut onto TV sets with the same misplaced confidence, acting as if the world hasn't already seen through the illusion. But history sees clearly. History has already written his legacy. Adam Schiff, the man who cried collusion endlessly, the man who turned congressional hearings into Broadway auditions, the man who confused political theater with leadership. Megyn Kelly doesn't merely roast him, she annihilates him, exposing every layer of pretense. Schiff isn't a watchdog of democracy, he's a salesman of fear. He isn't a teller of truth, he's a manipulator of it. He isn't the hero he pretends to be, he's the cautionary tale of what happens when politicians chase cameras, applause, and self-promotion instead of real results.
So the whistleblower was reportedly very specific on the details. Like it doesn't sound like a lie because this person had a lot of details when speaking to the FBI. Quote, when working in this capacity, this whistleblower was called to an all-staff meeting by Schiff. In this meeting, Schiff stated the group would leak classified information which was derogatory to the president.
And when the curtain finally falls, Schiff won't be remembered as the defender of the Constitution. He'll be remembered as the politician who promised the smoking gun but delivered nothing but smoke. What makes the dismantling even more brutal is how Kelly contrasts Schiff's self-styled image with the real-world consequences of his actions. He wanted to be remembered as the principal guardian of democracy, the man who saw threats others ignored. Instead, his legacy is the face of political theater gone wrong, a cautionary tale of what happens when ambition outruns credibility. Schiff didn't protect institutions. He weakened them, turning them into partisan props for his own performances. That is the stain he can never scrub away. Kelly drives the point home by highlighting how Schiff clung to television cameras as if they were lifeboats on a sinking ship. While most lawmakers use media to illuminate policy, Schiff used it to feed his ego, repeating the same baseless claims until repetition itself became a defense mechanism. But exposure came at a cost. Every appearance revealed the cracks in his story, and Kelly delights in showing that, eventually, America noticed. Schiff's brand of grandstanding might have sustained him for a time, but the record is clear. He traded substance for spectacle, and history will remember the performance, not the promises.
Now have whistleblower interview transcripts from the FBI. They're not exactly transcripts, they're FBI write-ups of the interviews that they conducted with a whistleblower who's a self-described Democrat working for the Democrats on the House Intelligence Committee, who worked for them, by the way, for 10 years, who says that he was there in 2017 when he heard Adam Schiff say, we are going to leak classified documents and intel to the media with the hopes of getting Donald Trump.
And then comes the hypocrisy. Schiff built his career condemning others for dishonesty, yet his entire persona was anchored in exaggeration, selective leaks, and narratives designed to mislead. Kelly paints him as the politician who pointed one finger while three pointed back at him. He wasn't the truth teller, he was the salesman. And once the product failed, the salesman had nothing left. That's why his credibility today is worth about as much as a Blockbuster membership card. The real destruction lands when Kelly zeroes in on the glaring disconnect between Schiff's inflated self-importance and his meager actual impact. What he managed to do instead was far less noble. He chipped away at public trust, fueled division, and left people more cynical about government than ever. Kelly frames him not as a guardian of truth, but as a cautionary tale, a man who proved that even supposed watchdogs chase the same fame and relevance as the politicians they claim to hold accountable. Once exposed, the self-proclaimed crusader looks less like a hero and more like just another opportunist. Kelly doesn't just roast him, she buries him under the sheer weight of his own record, and it's not a flattering obituary. Schiff craved the legacy of a respected statesman, but what he leaves behind is closer to internet parody. He's not the architect of grand policy or the defender of democracy he imagined. He's a meme, a punchline, a man who built a career on dramatic declarations that collapsed under scrutiny. Kelly drags that record into the light, showing how his greatest contribution wasn't progress or reform, but an endless string of empty promises. Once exposed, the cracks in his carefully polished persona become impossible to ignore, and the myth of Adam Schiff as a serious political figure dissolves. What remains is a hollow legacy, remembered more for noise than for substance.